There's over 1,000 Pokemon now. We can't catch them all anymore. Honestly, we haven't been able to for a very long time, since like Ruby and Sapphire, honestly. And you know, with 1,000 Pokemon, with 4 digits of monsters to collect, we obviously can't remember all of them. So let's just go through the list of Pokemon and just talk about the ones that I keep forgetting exist. With the Kanto Pokemon, it's kind of hard to forget about any of them, since they just shove them down people's throats constantly, and like, obviously they've been around the longest. And like, if you're a 90s kid, the Pokerap has ingrained every single one of these things into your brain forever. So yeah, pretty hard to forget about these guys. Luckily, I'm a little too young to have the Pokerap memorized, so honestly, I always forget about Seaking. This thing isn't used by like any major bosses in like any of the games, as far as I remember. Like, it's not even that good. I mean, like, there's plenty of other water types, even in Kanto, that you could probably just use instead. Like, I don't know why you would use this thing. And like, out of all the Kanto Pokemon, it's not even that iconic either. Like, bro thinks he's part of the team. If it wasn't for the fact that Misty had a Goldeen, and that Goldeen is like the joke Pokemon in Smash Brothers that like just doesn't do anything when you like throw it out, I don't think this line of Pokemon would be remembered by anyone. It just exists. Like, their design isn't even that cool. They're just fish. The only memorable thing about this thing is that it learns Waterfall via level up in Gen 3 when it was an HM. Like, that's so weird. Why does it learn Waterfall? Even then, you'll have Surf by then. What was the point? But when we get to Johto Pokemon, I don't know, they feel pretty hard to forget too, because like there's only like 100 of them, and like a lot of them are based on designs of the previous generation of Pokemon. And like, honestly, at worst, they're at least memorable for being uniquely useless. Like, Delibird is stupid. How could you forget about this thing? I guess if you held me at gunpoint and forced me to pick out the least memorable Johto Pokemon, I don't know, I guess Stantler. It's a very specific kind of plain and forgettable that, like, you just won't forget. It's hard to describe. Like, I guess Giraffreg is kind of like this too. Its typing was at least unique for the longest time. When it comes to forgettable Johto Pokemon, they're just, like, plain and average at worst. Like, it's a very specific kind of uninteresting that makes you remember it. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Hopefully you know what I mean. Hoen's definitely when we start to get some of the, like, truly unmemorable ones. I don't know, like 386. That's just enough to where, yeah, I can definitely forget a few of these. Like, Masquerain. Like, it's completely worthless. Like, it's just another bug flying type when it could have had a much more unique bug water typing. It's introduced alongside 2 other new bug flying types, both of which just have more interesting designs. And one of them is like a split evolution, kind of. Like, Shedinja is weird, and that makes Ninjask memorable by association. Like, Masquerain is never used by anyone decent except Guzma. Guzma's Masquerain is threatening, and I don't know how he did it. Like, good for him, he made an actual Zero to Hero arc. This is the only reason why I ever remember Masquerain exists. The truly least memorable Hoenn Pokemon is Grumpig, because, like, I've never used one. I've never seen anyone ever use one. You know, like, I don't have anything against it. Seems like an alright Pokemon. I just don't understand why you would want to use this over Gardevoir or Alakazam, which is probably why I always forget about it. Everyone just gets Gardevoir at the beginning of the game and then just use that, and then it's like, why do I need a Psychic type? I don't know, Spoink is neat at least. If it stops bouncing, it dies. Isn't that fun? Sinnoh probably has the most amount of forgettable Pokemon so far. Let's start with Mothin. It's an interesting kind of forgettable because I had a Mothin that I actually really liked when I was a kid. So like, despite the personal sentiment of, yeah, he's cool, I just forget about him now. Wormadam at least has like an interesting gimmick where it gets a different type based on where you evolve it. But like, if your Burmy is a boy, it literally doesn't matter. And like, Burmy is already so insanely annoying to get that like you just kind of have to deal with which one you get unless you go through breeding, which no one's gonna do for a Burmy. I don't know, maybe they could have kept the same gimmick but made Mothin more of an attacker. Who knows? Although, I think I know the reason why I always forget about Glameow. Like, I'm pretty sure this thing's only available in, like, Pearl and Legends Arceus. Like, you can't even catch this thing in Platinum. It's just a random grunt Pokemon you keep seeing. You'd never think to actually use one yourself. It's so weird. Perugly at least makes for a good challenge when you fight Mars for the first time. But Glameow is just there. I don't know, I guess it has a kind of unique design with like a little swirly tail, but I don't know. I've never felt the need to use one like ever. Skuntank at least learned Flamethrower when it evolved. That was neat. Glameow has nothing. Okay, I don't remember what Chatot is in the Sinnoh Dex, let's just talk about it now. On paper, Chatot is extremely unmemorable. However, I raise you Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. If you have not played Explorers, this Pokemon is unmemorable to you. Otherwise, extremely memorable. He's an asshole. Therefore, Chatot is memorable. This is the only time I will ever defend Chatot in any way. The real unmemorable Pokemon of Sinnoh is Cherrim and Cherubi. They're definitely unmemorable in a I have never once considered using this thing kind of way. Like, there's like 3 or 4 better grass types in Platinum that you can just use instead. Like, sorry buddy, you're completely outclassed. And like, it has this gimmick where like it has a different form, and I think it gets better stats in the sunlight. But in the sunlight, where fire type moves do more damage, and it's not even like particularly good anyway, so it's like, why? Lumineon, however, is a Pokemon that I definitely remember, but for the wrong reasons. Like, this thing has Love-Disc syndrome. Like, it's so unmemorable and worthless that it loops back around into being memorable. If you didn't have to see every Pokemon in the Sinnoh Dex to do the post-game stuff, then I think people actually would forget about this thing. There's only like 1 trainer in the whole game that uses one. I don't know where they are. And now I just resent this thing for not letting me play more of the game instead of just forgetting about it completely. When it comes to Unova Pokemon, honestly, most of them are pretty memorable to me, at least. I don't know, I guess maybe Heat more, but you know, at least it looks kind of unique. But poor Maractus. Like, what even are you? Are you good? I don't know. I always forget about you. Always. Like, if I need a grass type, I'd rather use Whimsicott, Lilligant, or Leavanny. Or like, the grass starter. Like, I'm sorry, little guy. Why would I use you? You're in like 1 area, and like maybe some trainer uses it. Like, I don't know, man. It's just there. Okay, so like out of all the Kalos Pokemon, I think the only one I flat out never remember exists is Hoopa, which is weird because it's the excuse they have for putting in so many extra legendaries in Oras. It doesn't really look that interesting, and like its main power is like teleportation rings, which is kind of lame. I don't know, he could have done like the Avengers Endgame thing way before it was cool, but like, whatever. Like, who cares? Teleport is already a move. You're not really that special. And like, the insane thing is that it can't learn Teleport. Like, what? What do you mean it can't learn Teleport? Its entire thing is being able to teleport things. What? And like, honestly, I remember the Unbound form even less, because like, I don't remember how you're supposed to get this thing, and it's like this extra form of a Pokemon that's already like an event-only Pokemon. It's just like, what? Like, what is this thing? Why does it exist? Okay, so like, out of all of the quote-unquote regional birds, Toucan is probably the least memorable to me. I mean, I like the name. I like the pissed-off version of Toucan Sam. I just like the woodpecker aesthetic of his pre-evolutions more. I don't know, it could have done a lot more than just a toucan that can make his beak really hot. Like, it doesn't even get another type from it. It's just flying normal, like usual. Oricorio is a way more interesting bird because it gets 4 unique forms, all with good types. I don't know, it's fun to use. And like, the earliest one that you can get is like electric flying, which is just a really good type. You know, looking through these Pokemon, I forget about several Alolan Pokemon. Sun and Moon is good, I swear. Anyway, I just remember that Comfey exists. Comfey, whatever. I think it's supposed to be more of a healing support Pokemon, but I don't think it even does that well. Obviously, it's bad in single player, but I wonder how it ranks competitively. In Sun and Moon, it ranks as never used, bad sign. Sword and Shield has it at PU, or bad, but it's an underused in Scarlet and Violet, so it is good. But it took like 2 more games to get there. I mean, like, good for this thing, I guess, but I don't know. I forgot you exist. And like, speaking of competitive, I don't remember the last time I thought about Passimian. Its counterpart, Oranguru, is at least used in competitive a lot. Passimian isn't. Like, it's absolutely insane that this thing was introduced in the games based on Hawaii and not the one based on Britain. You know what? I just looked it up. Oranguru isn't good competitively either. I don't know what I remembered, but at least that makes Oranguru more memorable than Passimian. God, Oranguru is such a hard word to say. I always forget about Alola's a vet Pokemon too. You know, like, fighting ghosts is a cool type, but otherwise, what even is Marshadow? Like, just some random kid ghost thing? I don't know. Zeraora is like this weird electric tiger furry thing. Like, if it wasn't a mascot for Pokemon DB, I'd probably never see this thing anywhere. Meltan and Melmetal are really weird because you can only obtain and evolve with your Pokemon Go. Why? Like, people already play that game like crazy. They don't need an excuse to play it more, and like, it definitely didn't make me play it more. I've never felt the need to obtain this. I don't know, I mean, I guess that makes it kind of memorable, but I always forget about it. And it's also a technically Gen 7 Pokemon that you can't actually obtain in Gen 7. Let's Go, it's technically a Gen 7 game, but like, it only has Kanto Pokemon aside from Meltan and Melmetal, so not really. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, like it's like using Bonsly in Pokemon XD. Oh wow, look at this, a Gen 4 Pokemon in a Gen 3 game. Or like that like Lucario statue you can get in Mystery Dungeon and Rescue Team. Honestly, it's not even like remotely the same thing now that I'm thinking about it, but like still, it was cool, I guess. Whatever. Sword and Shield is probably the generation of Pokemon that I remember the least, probably because I only felt the need to play it once, other than like half of a second time to do like a challenge run where like I only used Snom, but then I couldn't beat the 8th gym, so that video never got made. Also, fun fact about that, I was level 100 by like the 3rd gym. Was it the 3rd? Whichever one the fighting gym was, that one. I might as well just start naming weird ones, because if Sword and Shield didn't have such good character designs, I'd probably just forget that the game exists as a whole. The Orbeetle family. You know, like the bug psychic type is neat, but kind of forgettable otherwise. The Thievul family, just a bandit fox thing. Okay. Berserker, or Persian at home. Mr. Rhyme, a Pokemon that was erased from my memory until this very moment. I also forgot about Galarian and Mr. Mime. It seems alright, but Ice Fairy instead of Ice Psychic would have been a little cooler. Pinchurin, Pyukumuku at home. Indeedee, I think it has some kind of form change. I don't really care that much. Eskew? Eskew? I don't know how to pronounce that. I kind of want to punch one. Is that bad? Probably. Regidrago. Everyone memes on Regieleki, but not Drago. Therefore, it's forgettable. Also, I don't know why they randomly made like 2 more Regis after like 4 generations. Enamorous. Why did they make another Genie in a Sinnoh adjacent game instead of a Unova adjacent one? Apparently it's good. Never felt the need to use it because it's obtained in a highly specific way. It's just like this random 4th Pokemon in like the Landorus, Thundurus, Tornadus trio thing. I don't know. Why is it here? What happened? How did they come to the conclusion to make another one? I don't know. Scarlet and Violet has less unmemorable Pokemon than Sword and Shield. Maybe it's because I actually like this one. I don't know. I totally forgot that Lechonk evolves. The only memorable thing about this line is that it has an incredible name. At least male Oinkologne has like the edgy anime hair over his eyes. That's neat. So when I was doing the Pokemon vs. Lions video, I completely forgot about the Oblebedebeda has a middle evolution. I played Violet twice, and I never once saw a Dolliv. At least it looks kind of neat, but yeah, this thing exists. Squawkabilly has a 10 out of 10 name. That's the only good thing about it. But I love the lore that they can't have Corviknight taxis in Paldea because Tingatons keep harassing them. Why a flock of Squawkabilly can do this instead, I'll never know. Grafaiai is a weird one because this thing feels like a middle evolution, but it doesn't evolve. It has the stats of a final, but I don't know. I'm always waiting to encounter an evolved version of this thing, and don't keep Grafaiai in my long-term memory. Okay, so Wiglet sounds like a racial slur. I'm sorry if I offended anyone. I tried using a Wugtrio, but I wasn't into it. It's a very bizarre Pokemon that I'd like to forget about. And also Wugtrio kind of sounds like Wumbo. That's neat, I guess. Giraffe is bizarre, too. Why give Girafarig an evolution after all this time? Like, not that it's bad, just kind of a weird choice. Same with Dunsparce. Why give the meme Pokemon an evolution without leaning into how stupid Dunsparce is? Maybe the fact that it feels so redundant is intentional. All the Paradox Pokemon are cool as hell, but why Sandy Shocks? How is this thing supposed to look like magnets if they supposedly weren't invented yet? Why is it port ground type? It only learns 1 ground move. I mean, sure, Earth power is all you really need, but like, at least give it something else, you know? At the time of recording this, Pecharunt is the final Pokemon in the Pokedex at 1025. Like, what the hell even is this thing? It shows up in the DLC epilogue, and you need to get something from Mystery Gift despite also needing the paid DLC to obtain it. Where did it come from? Why did it randomly decide to mind control everyone? We may never know. This thing just feels so slapped onto the epilogue. It's unreal, man. It may sound like a lot of Pokemon are unmemorable or uninteresting, but there's 1,000 of these things now. If I'm able to recall like 90% of them, then that's a sign of the sheer quality of their designs. Like, that's how memorable these guys are. that I can recall like 900-ish out of the 1025 of them. Either that or I have an unhealthy obsession with the series and it lives rent-free in my brain at all times. I don't know which. Anyway, it's been fun. Take care, everyone.